Hi there, I'm Johnny Lingard, and welcome to Killer Confessions. On a Saturday night in the summer of 2023, Joshua Davies and his wife, Jennifer, were having a night out with a couple of friends when they encountered a stranger at a local wine bar. An altercation with this man lasting only moments left Josh on the ground, unresponsive. The stranger fled. There were a handful of eyewitnesses to the incident, yet somehow each told a different version of what they believed had occurred. And tragically, Joshua Davies never woke up. Today's case, no matter what version of events you choose to believe, is without a doubt a senseless tragedy. This is the story of 4 minutes that everyone involved wished had never taken place. Let's take a look. On a Saturday night in June 2023, a restaurant in Heartland, Wisconsin, was hosting a large outdoor concert. Heartland is a village of about 10,000 people located along the Bark River. If you walk 2 minutes down the street from the music venue, Beer Snobs Ale and Eats, you will arrive at Tabby's Lake Country and Wine Bar, a higher-end, smaller bar that overlooks the river. That Saturday, local residents, Jennifer and Joshua Davies, were having a date night. They met up with 2 friends at Beer Snob's, Laura Burke, a longtime client of Jen's hairdressing business, and Brian Richardson, a longtime close friend of Josh's since his teenage years. The group made the 2-minute walk from the concert to Tabby's at some time just before 11 p.m. When they reached the bar, they were not alone. Laura had met a man at the concert earlier that evening, 64-year-old Kevin Seymour. Kevin had attended the event with a friend, though that friend had remained behind when Kevin followed Laura and her group to the wine bar. Kevin Seymour was a stranger to everyone there. As the group began to congregate at the end of the bar, Jen introduced herself, as well as her husband, Josh, whose arms were covered in tattoos, and his bearded best friend, Brian. Laura wandered over to the table to join them moments later. What transpired over the next 4 minutes was an inexplicable escalation of events that would forever change the lives of everyone present. Kevin, standing with his back to the bar camera, took offense to the tattoos visible on Josh Davies' arms. According to all present, upon meeting Josh, Kevin informed him that his tattoos were a sin against God. Brian recalled Kevin stating, "You know what they say about tattoos, you are going to hell for ruining God's work." These statements, delivered aggressively, were initially perceived as jokes. It was an odd way to speak to someone you had only just met. The topic of tattoos prompted a separate chat between Jen and Laura briefly. The camera's audio, though muffled, nonetheless clearly captured Josh laughing at the older man's comments. Tattoos, according to Brian and other friends, were one of Josh's passions. He was always planning new designs. Moments after, Josh walked away to stand at a further table. Throughout the exchange, Brian Richardson did not speak. After moving around the table towards Josh, Kevin is heard stating to the women, "He's being a dickhead and trying to be funny." Kevin then stated, "Kevin doesn't put up with bullshit." After some prompting from Jen, the 2 younger men walked out the front door. Laura, 2 drinks in hand, called out to Kevin, attempting to coax him towards the back exit, which was the same way they had initially come in. From that exit, Kevin could have wandered back towards Beer Snobs, where the friend he went out with that night had been left behind. Instead, he took the drink from her hand and placed it on the table. The lady's failed attempt to de-escalate the situation was made clear only moments later. Josh, standing at the threshold of the bar's front door, hollered inside to his wife, "Why are you still talking to that effing asshole? Let's go!" Less than 1 minute after Kevin disappeared from view, Jen returned to tell staff that they needed help. Josh Davies' head had hit the sidewalk with some force, and he needed immediate medical attention. Kevin Seymour, after a brief pause at the door, had taken off down the street. Exactly what had occurred in the moments after Kevin left the bar, leading to Josh's injuries, would become the topic of heated debate and uncertainty. Officers from the Heartland Police Department found Joshua Davies on the concrete, coming in and out of consciousness. The 39-year-old was rushed to the hospital. The impact from his fall had caused a traumatic brain injury. Josh spent 27 days in the intensive care unit at the Aurora Summit Trauma Center. On July 12th, nearly 1 month after the incident at Tabby's wine bar, he tragically passed away from his injuries. His death prompted friends to mourn the senseless violence. Quiet, quaint night, to have a date night with your wife and to be assaulted for having a tattoo. Each tattoo is a personal message from the person who wears it, a shared memory, a bad memory. At no time did deserve to be attacked. Those who knew Josh Davies well were unanimous in their description of him: a big personality. He had a love and zest for life that was said to be bigger than life itself. Parents, Patty Pearson and Edward Davies, remembered the big things about Josh: that he was a loving son, brother to his sister, and father to his children. They also recalled the small things, which said a lot about the person that Josh was. He gave really great big hugs. He was easygoing, a lover, not a fighter. Josh had met his wife, Jennifer, 10 years earlier. Only 2 days after they met, he proposed. She accepted, and the two were married 1 year later. They remained happy to the day he died. He was a father to 2 children and became a loving and supportive stepfather to Jen's son. That night, the two were enjoying their date. They took a photo, smiling together while at the concert at Beer Snobs. It was the last photo taken of Josh. Having been born and raised in the local area, the landscaper had made and maintained a large group of lifelong friends, many of whom he knew through his love of disc golf. He cared about his friends a lot, his family. It was very important to him. He was a loud dude. He was loud. He had a big personality. Friends struggled with the senselessness. It makes no sense for someone to be that mean, that cruel. So, especially to Josh. He's the one that's gonna be hard to replace. Never duplicated. That's for sure. Josh's tattoos were described. He's got sleeves and designs that he's designed himself, has had friends tattoo him. Absolutely nothing that is offensive to anyone. He was only 39 years old and did not deserve to die like this. Earlier on the day of the incident, Josh played disc golf with Brian in the afternoon while Jen worked for her hairstyling business. Brian was the designated driver for the night. As such, he had 1 light beer in the afternoon and abstained for the rest of the night. After golf, the 3 met for dinner before the concert at Beer Snobs. Jen recalled having a glass of wine with dinner, perhaps 2 seltzers at the show, while Josh was drinking beers at disc golf, and then again 4 hours later at the concert, though no one knew how many. At the concert, they met up with Laura Burke, who had made a new acquaintance who would join them later that evening, Kevin Seamer. A witness found the situation surreal. It's just so crazy, the idea. I know this is a nice wine bar and he's just walking in with his wife to see friends, and it's just so shocking. By 5 a.m. on the morning of June 18th, only hours after the encounter at Tabby's, Heartland police arrived at the home of Kevin Seamer. They knocked and received no answer. Kevin could not be located. While they tried to find him, investigators also scoured the area surrounding Tabby's wine bar for any available camera footage of the encounter that occurred outside of the building. After several hours of searching, Kevin Seamer came forward to speak with police later that afternoon. He told Detective Paula Hoffa his version of events from the night before. When introduced to Josh and Brian, he assessed that both men were intoxicated. Kevin recounted the initial interaction. I'm like, oh, we're just doing small talk and stuff. And then she, one of the 2 girls. They introduced me to the 2 guys. Okay, And, so I don't have any idea what their names were. Yeah, but I could tell that they were pretty intoxicated. Okay. And he had tattoos all over his mouth. Kevin admitted to making a comment about tattoos, and I only did it to make a comment. I said, I don't know. Somebody had something that if you get a tattoo that you're marking up God's work, okay? And it's a sin. And I mentioned that to the guy. Josh's response offended him, and he's like, you must be one of those effing Catholic boys. Okay. And I said, oh my gosh, I got Lutheran. And I said, but I know my, and he was just, we instantly did not hit it off, if you will. Kevin characterized the interaction that followed as jovial, at least on his part, but admitted there was tension. He was upset by Josh's comment. So were you upset by that comment that he made? Yeah. Okay. He explained his reasoning. Yeah. I was just telling him, maybe it wasn't appropriate, but I was just making a comment about tattoos and what I learned from it years ago. He denied yelling, so when you said you were upset, then did you start yelling at him? No. I just said, I'm Lutheran. He then described the escalation, and that's when things got a little blurry, because it was a little loud in there and he was saying things and I was saying things. And I'm like, why don't you two get out of here, I said. Why don't you go outside, practice falling down, kind of kidding around. I'll be out there in a little bit. Okay, so you guys were all like talking. Yeah, just talking shit. Guys. So you were both talking ST to each other? Yeah. Okay. Kevin admitted Josh used expletives. He had said something to me. Like, fkeet, fuck you, this and that. Kevin stated he didn't use swears, was in control, but disliked Josh from the beginning. Kevin continued on to explain what led to the serious injuries sustained by Josh Davies after the men went outside. At the point that this interview took place, Josh was receiving treatment in the hospital, but it was not clear to anyone involved at that stage that Josh would ultimately die as a result of this altercation. Kevin claimed Josh's wife tried to cool him down, so then his wife takes him and takes both of them to their unneeded, can't take them outside, the thing that cool down and whatnot. Okay. Then Kevin claimed Josh returned and shouted at him again. Then all of a sudden he comes back in the bar and says some more shit to me, to everybody real loud. Okay. I don't know exactly what he said, but it was directed towards me. And then I kinda lost my cool and I say, I lost my cool. What did you say? Kevin then described going outside. And then I went outside. The girls tried to, say, yes, he's, they're drunk, And I'm like, well, and I swear to you on my dad's grave and on my kid's life, I went outside and his friend and this guy had stools in their hands. So the guy and his friend had stools. Yeah. They're up in the air like this, And I said, what did you say? And then, Now I'm like, oh, now you're gonna hit me with a stool. I'm gonna get knocked in the neck. With a stool. Okay. And 2 stools. So, Kevin claimed to have blocked an attack with a stool. So one friend, he tried to hit me with a stool first, and I don't know really what happened. But all I did was block it, and that was it. And I didn't touch him. I didn't say anything to him. Nothing. He then claimed Josh came at him, and he pushed him away. Then the other guy, the husband, he comes in, and he winds up, And I don't know what the hell happened. It would be if I had like it was like second curse on just held my hand there and I just pushed him with the stool in his hand and I just pushed him away. He fell over onto the ground and then I left. A collection of high tables and metal stools sit outside of Tabby's bar along the sidewalk. In Kevin's retelling of events, both Brian and Josh attacked him with these stools, throwing them towards him while he deflected them. Kevin claimed that Josh fell to the ground as a result of him blocking an attack with one of these stools. Kevin pushed at the stool that Josh held, which was enough force to cause his fall. He maintained it was an act of self-defense. I do remember that it was open-handed, but I don't recall him, and I do not recall getting him in the face whatsoever. I recall not hitting, but pushing the stool, period, into him, and then he fell over. Later in this interview, Kevin amended certain details, conceding that it was possible that only Josh tried to throw anything, not Brian as well. But on one point he remained consistent. He did not strike Josh directly. He admitted pushing Josh down with one open hand. If you want to use the word violently, that's kind of unfair. But I would say, yes, I pushed him down with one open hand and he immediately went down to the ground and I didn't say nothing to anybody else. I turned around and I walked away. And that was it. When questioned about the discrepancy between his account and others, he agreed that Josh went down by his force. At that point, okay, so right now the only discrepancy is that you say you pushed the stool and didn't even push him down, and everyone else is saying you made contact with his face and he went down. Either way, he went down by your force. Can we at least agree on that? He went down by your force. Absolutely. Okay. Under the sidewalk. Correct. Yeah, the sidewalk as well. Okay. The only source of footage outside of Tabby's was an internal security camera from the hometown pharmacy building located just next door. This recording captured the incident through the windows, obscured by the pharmacy door and walls. Forensic technicians enhanced the quality of this footage, adjusting the lighting and reducing the speed. From the right of the screen, a figure determined to be Josh Davies first appears moving towards the left, whereas his torso becomes visible through the glass pharmacy door. A second figure, Kevin Seymour, appears in view just behind Josh. As Josh falls to the ground, Kevin appears to be standing above him for only an instant. Then he runs off in the direction he came. In the view of investigators and the state of Wisconsin, the video showed Kevin charging towards Josh. The younger man appears to lunge forward, perhaps throwing a metal bar stool. But a moment later, as he hits the ground, investigators believe that the following frames showed Kevin Seymour's follow-through from a single closed fist punch. They also asserted that it was this violent action that caused Josh's death. This was not a case of self-defense, they thought. He had pursued and attacked Josh because he didn't like his tattoos. Kevin Seymour was arrested and indicted for murder. Kevin pleaded not guilty, and the case moved to trial in August 2024. His defense team made no excuses for him losing his temper inside of the bar that night. But defense attorney Scott Shiro took issue with the assertions made about the physical altercation. Kevin had not acted intentionally to cause harm to the younger man, and there was no punch thrown. He was defending himself. As counsel said, she wasn't wrong. Shiro acknowledged Kevin's anger. My client was weirdly angry about this tattoo that Mr. Davies had. I don't know why he cared so much, but it seemed stupid, seemed not really appropriate, quite frankly. He framed the incident as self-defense against a stool attack. This case is about somebody trying to hit my client with a stool, and my client stopping this person from doing so by stopping the momentum of the stool as it came rushing towards him. And it is terrible because somebody hit their head. But he tried to attack my client. My client may have been acting like a jerk, but you can't attack a person with a stool. There were a handful of eyewitnesses to the alleged punch or stool attack, though each presented different versions of the event. The only consistent detail across all eyewitness testimony was that things happened very quickly. Jen Davies recalled portions of the conversation inside the bar. She recounted Kevin's comments about tattoos, that he ruined the body God gave him, and that he was going to go to hell. She also recalled Josh's joking response. Kevin also said, "Do you know what God says about tattoos?" And Josh joked and said, "Get more." Jen told the jury about how she ran to the door ahead of Kevin to prevent him from chasing Josh from the bar. Jen Davies stands 5'2" tall, while Kevin Seymour is 6'2" and weighed 275 pounds in June 2023. He pushed straight past her. Jen testified, "Kevin immediately charged past myself and Laura to run outside. I watched as Kevin charged towards Josh. He picked her. Josh picked up a stool and chucked it at Kevin to defend himself. Kevin ran past the stool and punched Josh. She didn't believe the stool hit Kevin. She described the punch with his right hand, a fist. After the punch, Kevin fled. "He ran past me." "Did he say anything?" "Yes." "What did Kevin say?" "He said, 'I'm getting the fuck out of here.'" Best friend, Brian Richardson, who was standing outside near to Josh when Kevin exited the bar, told a similar version of events as Jen, except he never saw Josh lift or throw a stool. Brian confirmed he saw Kevin punch Josh. He did not see Josh do anything before that. "No, I saw him running towards Josh." He didn't recall seeing a stool as a weapon. "I don't remember ever seeing anybody with one." "Okay, no one, I don't believe so." Brian described the punch. "Kevin kept coming at..." "Yeah. Kevin kept coming at Josh and then punched him in the face, and Josh hit the ground. He didn't see anything in between." Aside from Josh's wife and his best friend, there was one additional eyewitness who was outside of the bar that night and watched the encounter in real time. John Laporte, a musician who was playing a gig at the wine bar that evening. By the time the group arrived, John was packing up his vehicle. He overheard pieces of the heated exchange inside the bar as he came and went with his equipment. The musician said it was Kevin that grabbed a stool and threw it. He later collected the stool from where it landed in the street. Laporte then saw Josh walk back into Tabby's. "Then I remembered Josh walking back into Tabby's in the front door, and I'm right here at my car, and the door is right here. And I thought, why is he going back in there? They obviously aren't getting along real well. And then I thought, well, maybe he's going back in to get the girls or something." Seconds after that, he saw Kevin come out the front door, walk past the front of Tabby's. In front of Tabby's, there were some high-top tables and some shorter metal bar stools. Laporte saw Kevin grab a stool. He grabbed one of the bar stools. Who did? Kevin did. As he walked past the front of it, walking towards the other two men standing, still in the same spot, half a block away in front of the pharmacy. Laporte confirmed seeing Kevin grab one of the stools. He saw Kevin throw it. He threw it, but I don't know if he was actually trying to throw it at him. I saw it hit the curb and bounce off into the street. He then described the punch. Next, I remember he had walked all the way down there and he was right in front of the two guys and pretty close to them. And Josh just took like one step forward and I saw Kevin hit him. It looked like either with his fist or with a forearm smash kind of. And then I saw Josh fall flat back on his head. Okay. And was laying there on the concrete. Laporte did not see Josh with a stool. Did you see Josh with a stool at any time? No. Did you see Josh with a stool above his head? No. The only stool I ever saw was the one that I picked up and put back. And that was the one that you saw being thrown by Kevin Seymour, correct? Laura Burke had also tried to stop Kevin from leaving the bar. She grabbed at his shirt tail as he moved past her. Laura testified that from inside where she remained, she could see Josh through the window. She claimed Josh held a metal stool above his head, ready to throw it at Kevin. There was no consensus among eyewitnesses on whether Kevin threw a punch, an elbow, or a push. No one could agree who held a metal stool as a weapon or which man may have thrown one. The video evidence from next door appears to show an object on the ground by Josh's feet before he fell, but the quality is too poor to confirm what that item may have been. Kevin's defense relied not only on his assertion that he was blocking the stool, but also that Josh Davies was grossly intoxicated. Unlike the others who could testify to their relatively moderate drinking that night, no one could confirm how many beers Josh had consumed. None of the witnesses perceived Josh to be drunk. However, his blood alcohol was measured at a minimum of 0.24, which is above standard levels impacting judgment, balance, and memory. An expert testifying for the defense told the jury that Josh's coordination and motor skills would have been severely impacted. The implication was that even a defensive push delivered by Kevin could have caused Josh to trip and fall harshly to the ground. Furthermore, there was no documentation of a bruise or mark on his face where the alleged punch was said to have landed. The defense summarized their argument. There are really three principal things that caused this. One is that he had left his feet and he was swinging a stool, which was blocked. Smaller force met larger force. Larger force pushed it away and he fell. The second is that he was intoxicated, grossly so. Now, again, it's not a judgment on him, but it does make it harder for him to do what he's trying to do physically, and it caused him to go down. And lastly, that there does appear, I don't know if you want to call it a trip or what you want to call it, but absolute zero shows that something came right at his feet, just as about the time he's about to launch. I don't know if that's a trip or if that's just another factor, but those are factors that caused him, I think, in part to go down. But the principle is he's trying to swing a stool and my client blocks it, and in his intoxicated state, he fell. District Attorney Sue Opper closed with an explanation that cut through the messy eyewitness testimony and boiled the case down to one core legal fact. Kevin Seymour was the instigator. He provoked Josh Davies. He could not claim self-defense after creating the confrontational circumstances in the first place. Opper argued, if Kevin felt the need to defend himself from an attack, all he had to do was stop moving forward, turn around, and go back inside. She dismissed the stool argument. There's a stool in here somewhere. Ladies and gentlemen, really doesn't matter. You don't have to sit here in your deliberations and figure out exactly who had the stool when and where. You don't, because Mr. Shiro was flat out wrong on one thing. He told you, I can't provoke a fight and still claim self-defense. He said that. That is not the law. Ladies and gentlemen. Opper continued to press the point about Kevin's intent. He's afraid for his safety. Why keep going? Mr. Seymour turned around and go back in the bar. Sure. Absolutely no explanation for his behavior other than he wanted to hurt Josh. He didn't like him from the start. He didn't like his tattoos. And he's going to be the one to finish this. Right. He's not going out the back door with Laura, not returning to his friends. In fact, he ran. He goes up to Josh, punches him in the head, and runs. The jury returned with a guilty verdict on one count of felony murder. The maximum sentence under state guidelines was 21 years. At his sentencing hearing in September, the state introduced previous incidents where Kevin had lashed out at strangers in public. This included once in 2015 when he lost his temper on a 15-year-old kid at a car wash. In another instance in 2022, he told a contractor who had been hired by a neighbor to remove trees from their property line that he would put him in a hole. The threat was taken seriously enough that police were called, and the incident was formally reported. Behavior like this, the state argued, was good reason to keep Kevin Seymour locked away for a significant period. He was unpredictable and had a history of angry outbursts following very short interactions with people he took a sudden disliking to. Judge William Domina handed down a sentence of 7 years of incarceration, followed by another 5 years on extended supervision. Kevin's alcohol level was never tested on the night that Josh Davies was injured, since he could not be located until later the next day. But as a central condition of his supervised release, the judge ordered that he was to maintain sobriety. The 65-year-old spoke at the hearing, expressing remorse and asking forgiveness of the family. "I only hope Josh's family and friends can please find it somewhere deep in their heart to forgive me. I know I never will forgive myself. Thank you." Friends and family found a fitting way to honor Joshua Davies' memory with a tattoo. These were proudly on display as they received justice for the death of a much-beloved husband, father, brother, son, and friend. In a heartbreaking irony, Josh, the fun-loving friend with a big personality, had been fond of the saying, "Live and let live." That was the tragic case of Josh Davies. Thank you once again for joining me. I'm Johnny Lingard. This is Killer Confessions, and I'll see you in the next one.